giant crystal chamber floated in space between dimensions. Inside, 300 different alien species had gathered to watch something terrible. They were all staring at a blue planet called Earth. Around the planet, 900 massive warships waited like hungry wolves. These ships belonged to the Vraxians, and everyone in the galaxy feared them. Ambassador Krell sat in his seat. He had 4 arms and skin that looked like blue metal. Next to him, Counselor Mir floated in the air. She was made of light and looked worried. They both knew what was about to happen. The humans on Earth were going to die, and nobody could stop it. The Vraxians had destroyed 47 civilizations before. They were good at it. First, they would send their huge fleet. Then they would attack with overwhelming force. Finally, they would take over everything. It always worked the same way. The humans were young and weak. They had only discovered space travel 200 years ago. They did not stand a chance. Admiral Jake Monroe stood in the control room of the space station called Unity. He was in his 50s with gray hair and tired eyes. Around him, young officers worked at their computers. They looked scared, but they kept working. Jake watched the enemy ships getting closer on the big screen. His face showed no fear. A young woman named Sophie looked up from her computer. She was the tactical officer. "Admiral, they are asking us to surrender. They want us to give up all our weapons and become their slaves." Jake smiled a little. "Send them our answer. Tell them thank you, but no. We choose to fight. Oh, and Sophie, tell them I hope they brought enough ships." Back in the crystal chamber, Krell heard the message. He shook his head. The fool does not understand. The Vraxians will turn his planet into dust. Mir glowed sadly. Maybe he does understand. Maybe that is why he fights. These humans are so young. They act like they own everything. They do not know when to be afraid. The High Arbiter was the leader of the council. It was very old and looked like nothing anyone had ever seen. It raised 3 of its 7 arms. Everyone became quiet. "We are here only to watch, nothing more." The humans were warned about the Vraxians. We offered them safety in our protected space. They said no. Now they must face what happens when you are too proud. Another alien spoke up. "But High Arbiter, the humans have primitive technology. They have no shields. They have no weapons that can hurt Vraxian armor. This will not be a battle. It will be murder." The High Arbiter became darker. "Then let it be a lesson to other young species who think they are special. The law is clear. We do not interfere in wars between species who are not council members. To do so would create chaos. The humans made their choice when they refused our protection and our laws." Jake looked at his battle plan one more time. The Vraxian fleet had organized into 9 groups. Each group had 100 ships. They were being very careful. They were treating humans like equals, not like the babies of the galaxy. Jake found that almost funny. Captain Nathan walked into the control room. He wore heavy combat armor that made sounds when he moved. "Admiral, the ground forces are ready. If those ships get past us and reach Earth, we will make them regret it." Jake nodded. "I know you will, Nathan, but we will not let them get that far." Sophie's computer made a loud sound. "Admiral, they are moving. All 9 groups are coming at us from different directions. They will be close enough to shoot in 12 minutes. Jake felt calm. This was the feeling he always got before a fight. "Send the signal to everyone. Start Operation Homecoming. And Sophie, let me talk to all our ships." Sophie worked her controls. Soon Jake's voice went to every human ship in the solar system. "This is Admiral Monroe. In a few minutes, we will fight an enemy that has destroyed almost 50 civilizations. They think this will be easy. They think we are weak because we are young. They think we will break because we have never faced such big odds. They are about to learn they are very wrong." He stopped talking for a moment. Humanity has faced extinction before. Ice ages, diseases, wars that almost destroyed us. Every time we fell down, we got back up. Every time someone said something was impossible, we did it anyway. Today we show the galaxy what it means to be human. Today we show them that Earth does not surrender. All ships you may fire when ready. Show them what we are made of. In the crystal chamber, 300 species watched in silence. The tiny human fleet of 300 ships moved to fight a force 3 times bigger. Krell leaned forward. He was sure the humans would lose, but he wanted to see how. Mir's light pulsed with worry. The Vraxian commander was General Krath. He watched the humans with satisfaction. They were actually going to fight. Good. His warriors wanted a real battle. These humans would at least give them some fun before they died. Open fire when they are close enough. Hit their big ships first. I want this finished quickly. Space exploded with violence. The Vraxian energy weapons shot out with terrible power. They were designed to break through any shield. But the human ships had no shields at all. They only had thick metal armor. The beams punched through the metal and several human ships started to burn, but the humans were shooting back. They used weapons that threw heavy metal pieces at incredible speed. They used nuclear missiles, thousands of them, and they used strange weapons that bent space itself. Things came through those bends that should not exist. The first Vraxian ships started to die. Their shields could stop energy weapons all day, but they could not stop solid metal moving so fast. The metal pieces went straight through, creating huge holes. The nuclear weapons were simple, but they worked. They exploded against the hulls and destroyed everything nearby. In the council chamber, shocked silence turned into frantic talking. "This is impossible," someone whispered. "They should not be surviving." Krell studied the battle display with new understanding. "Look at how they move. They are not staying still. They keep moving, making themselves hard to hit, and their weapons use different types all at once. This overwhelms the Vraxian defenses." The battle continued. Both sides were losing ships. 20 human ships were destroyed, then 30, then 50. But the Vraxian losses were growing too. 100 of their ships were damaged or destroyed, then 150. General Krath felt fear in his stomach. This was not how it was supposed to happen. Admiral Monroe watched with grim satisfaction. Yes, they were losing ships, but they were making the enemy pay for every inch of space. All commands, start Phase 2. Time to show them what we have really been working on. The watching aliens could not believe what they were seeing. The humans were supposed to lose in minutes, but they were still fighting. More than that, they were winning. The young species that everyone had dismissed as primitives was teaching the mighty Vraxian Empire a lesson in pain. Lieutenant Ellen sat in her fighter cockpit. Around her were 300 other fighters. They had been hiding behind Earth's moon. Nobody knew they were there. The radio crackled with Admiral Monroe's voice. "All fighter wings, you can attack now. Remember what you learned in training. Stay in pairs, hit hard, and get away fast." Ellen smiled. The Vraxians had no idea what was coming. Their intelligence reports had focused on the big human ships. They thought the fighters were just annoying bugs. They were about to learn a painful lesson about ignoring anything human. Her squadron was called Hammer. They flew away from the moon at speeds that would kill a normal human. Inside their cockpits, the pilots felt crushing pressure. Special dampeners kept them alive, but just barely. The human way of traveling faster than light was different from everyone else. Most aliens used smooth, efficient drives. Humans had developed something rougher and more violent. What made it special was that humans had turned it into a weapon. Ellen's targeting computer locked onto a Vraxian destroyer. "All Hammer fighters, I have the target. Form up and get ready for synchronized strike." The squadron moved together. 12 fighters accelerated to combat speed. At the last second, they turned on their special drives. They created bubbles of warped space around their missiles. The missiles did not just fly toward the target. They rode waves of compressed space, arriving at impossible speeds. The Vraxian destroyer's shields never had time to react. The missiles were moving so fast that physics said it should not be possible. They hit with the force of small asteroids. The destroyer exploded in a brilliant flash of light that was brighter than the stars. In the council chamber, Mir watched with amazement. They weaponized their own engines. The creativity is remarkable, even if it is terrifying. Krell made nervous sounds. Remarkable? It is insane. Do they not understand the risk? Creating space warps in a battle could tear holes in reality itself. The high arbiter shifted. Yet it works. We must admit that. These humans fight with creativity we have not seen in thousands of years. General Krath watched his fleet's losses mount. He was getting angry. How? How are these primitives hurting us? Change formation to Delta 7. Focus all fire on their fighters. I want them swept from space. But the human fighters were already moving. They broke into smaller groups. They weaved through the Vraxian formation like schools of fish. They used the enemy's own ships as cover. This forced the Vraxians to hold their fire or risk hitting their own vessels. When the fighters struck, they were precise. They targeted engines and weapons. Captain Nathan received the signal he had been waiting for. Several Vraxian ships were damaged. They could not stay in formation. They were falling toward Earth's gravity. They would try emergency landings. This would bring their ground troops into the fight. That was fine with Nathan. He had a surprise waiting. The first Vraxian ship crashed into the Australian desert. Its hull was torn and burning, but still strong enough to deploy troops. 2,000 Vraxian warriors came out into Earth's sunlight. Each one was over 2 meters tall. They had personal energy shields and plasma weapons. They were veterans of countless battles. They were confident they would win. What they met was a regiment of human Marines. These Marines had been preparing for 3 years. Colonel Lisa commanded the 3rd Marine Division. She watched the enemy through satellite cameras. All units you may fire. Show them why we are called Marines. The Vraxian warriors moved forward in standard formation. Their shields overlapped. Their plasma rifles were ready. They had fought ground battles on 40 worlds. They had never met organized resistance that lasted more than a few hours. Earth would be no different. Then the ground exploded around them. Hidden artillery positions opened fire. They had been camouflaged so well that Vraxian sensors missed them completely. But these were not normal artillery. Humans had taken their railgun technology and made it smaller. These man-portable versions could punch through personal shields like they were paper. The lead Vraxian squad simply stopped existing. They were torn apart by hypersonic rounds. The metal pieces hit with enough force to vaporize flesh and shatter bone. The formation broke as warriors scrambled for cover. They found that humans had prepared the battlefield carefully. Every hill, every dip, every piece of natural cover had been targeted already. Sergeant Kyle led his fire team in a flanking move. They moved through terrain the Vraxians thought was impassable. The aliens were strong and tough, but they were used to fighting on open ground where their superior strength gave them an advantage. The humans gave them no such advantage. Small arms fire erupted from a dozen hidden positions. The humans used many different weapons. Some were conventional firearms. Others were experimental energy weapons that engineers had built in the years since first contact. Nothing fancy, nothing elegant, just effective. The Vraxian ground commander was Tribune Vor. He rallied his warriors and ordered a counterattack. They were still better fighters individually. They just needed to close the distance. The humans would break once they saw Vraxian warriors up close. Lisa watched the enemy advance and smiled coldly. They are taking the bait. All close combat teams, you are clear to go. What came from the human lines made even the battle-hardened Vraxians pause. Exosuits. Powered armor that turned human soldiers into walking tanks. Each suit multiplied the wearer's strength 10 times. They mounted weapons from automatic cannons to plasma cutters. The Marines wearing them charged forward with impossible speed and aggression. Private Danny was inside his exosuit. He felt invincible as he crashed into the Vraxian line. His suit's motors whined as he grabbed a warrior by the throat. He lifted the 2-meter alien off the ground like it weighed nothing. The Vraxian's eyes widened in shock. Then Danny's suit cannon fired. The warrior's shield collapsed under the sustained fire. The battle became chaos. In close quarters, the human advantages became clear. The exosuits gave them strength to match Vraxian warriors. Their smaller size made them harder targets. More importantly, the humans fought with ferocity that caught the aliens off guard. They did not fight like soldiers following orders. They fought like people defending their home. In orbit, Admiral Monroe received reports from the ground. He felt fierce pride. The Marines were holding. Now it was time to make sure the Vraxians in space had other things to worry about. Sophie, what is the status of the orbital platforms? Sophie checked her displays. All platforms are ready, Admiral. Reactors at full power. Jake nodded. Then let us introduce them to Project Hammer. Fire when ready. Around Earth, 12 massive platforms activated. Vraxian intelligence had thought these were defensive installations. They were wrong. These were humanity's most ambitious project. Mass drivers that could accelerate objects to almost light speed, but not small objects. These were asteroids. Each one weighed thousands of tons. They had been turned into kinetic kill vehicles. The platforms fired in sequence. The asteroids jumped forward with acceleration that would crush any living thing. Their targets were the Vraxian capital ships, the massive dreadnoughts that led each battle group. The alien shields could stop energy weapons all day. They were not designed to stop that much mass moving that fast. The first asteroid hit a dreadnought in the middle. The shield held for 3/billionths of a second before collapsing. The asteroid punched completely through the vessel. It created a wound that exposed everything inside to vacuum and radiation. Secondary explosions rippled along the dreadnought's length as power systems failed. In the council chamber, 300 species watched in stunned silence. The most powerful warships in the Vraxian fleet were being destroyed by weapons that were absurdly primitive, by galactic standards. Krell could not stop himself from speaking. They are using rocks. Accelerated rocks. And it is working, the High Arbiter pulsed. The humans understand something we had forgotten. Simplicity can be more effective than sophistication. And kinetic energy is kinetic energy, no matter how primitive the delivery system. General Krath stared at his tactical display with growing horror. He had lost 4 dreadnoughts in 4 minutes. The humans showed no sign of running out of ammunition. His fleet had seemed overwhelming just hours ago. Now it was being systematically destroyed by an enemy that should have been easy prey. Retreat. Order all forces to withdraw. We will regroup and return with reinforcements. But Admiral Monroe was not going to let them leave easily. All ships pursue them. Do not let them reform their lines. And someone get me a firing solution on their command ship. The hunt had begun. The Vraxian retreat quickly became a mess. Ships that had moved in perfect formation now scrambled to escape. Their commanders cared more about survival than discipline. For a species that built its empire on calculated brutality and overwhelming force, this was new and terrifying. They were the prey now. Lieutenant Ellen led her squadron in pursuit of a fleeing Vraxian cruiser. The enemy vessel was damaged. It was leaking atmosphere and coolant, but it was still dangerous. Her tactical officer was Lieutenant Brandon. He marked targets. Commander, I have firing solutions on their left weapons and their main engine. Ellen thought for half a second. Take out their engine. Let them drift. Maybe they will think twice before attacking another world. The missiles flew away. Moments later, the cruiser's main drive exploded in blue-white fire. The vessel began to tumble. It could no longer maintain course or speed. Ellen watched it fall behind. She was already looking for her next target. That was for New Beijing, she whispered. She remembered the Vraxian attack on the colony world that killed her sister 3 years ago. On Unity Station, Admiral Monroe coordinated the pursuit with cold efficiency. He was a career military officer who had waited years for this moment. The Vraxians had not just threatened Earth. They had attacked human colonies. They had destroyed human ships. They had killed human civilians in their slow advance toward the Sol system. The time for payback had come. Sophie's voice cut through the controlled chaos. Admiral, I am tracking General Krath's flagship. It is trying to reach jump distance. Jake studied the tactical plot. The Vraxian commander was trying to escape. He wanted to take his flagship and whatever knowledge he had gained back to his superiors. That could not be allowed. Redirect the battlecruiser Defiance to intercept. And tell Captain Luis I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We are going to have words with the general. Captain Luis acknowledged the order from the bridge of the Defiance. His ship was one of humanity's newest and most powerful vessels. It surged forward on an intercept course. The chase lasted 17 minutes. Both ships exchanged fire as they raced toward the edge of the system. The Vraxian flagship was larger and better armed, but it had been damaged in the initial battle. It was leaking power. Luis ordered his weapons officer to target specific systems. We are going to thread a needle here, people. Take out their jump drive but leave life support and command functions intact. The Admiral wants prisoners, so we are going to deliver prisoners. The Defiance's railguns spoke with precision. The Vraxian flagship shuddered as its propulsion systems took critical damage. The massive vessel began to slow. It could no longer reach the speed needed for a jump to faster-than-light travel. Krath stood on his command deck. He stared at the human ship that had run down his flagship like a predator chasing wounded prey. How? How had these primitives defeated him? In the council chamber, the gathered representatives watched with various degrees of shock and concern. Mir's light brightened. They are not just defending themselves. They are sending a message. Attack humanity, and you will not simply be pushed back. You will be hunted. Krell made nervous sounds. This is a dangerous precedent. If the humans continue this way, they will destabilize the entire sector. The Vraxians will demand retaliation. Other species will take sides. The High Arbiter considered this. Perhaps. Or perhaps the humans are teaching the galaxy a lesson we had forgotten. There is a price for aggression, a price for assuming that might makes right. We shall see how this plays out. On the ground, the battle in Australia had reached its end. Colonel Lisa walked through the battlefield. She surveyed the aftermath. The Vraxian landing force had been neutralized. Some had surrendered once they realized continued resistance was futile. Others had fought to the end. Their bodies now lay scattered across the red earth. Sergeant Kyle approached. His armor was scorched and dented but still functional. "Ma'am, we have counted about 300 prisoners. They are requesting medical attention for their wounded." Lisa nodded. "Give it to them. We are not barbarians, but keep them under heavy guard. These warriors have conquered too many worlds to trust easily." She looked up at the sky. Distant flashes marked ongoing battles in orbit. The ground war was over. Now it was up to the fleet to finish what they had started. Captain Nathan joined her. He removed his helmet to wipe sweat from his face. "Never thought I would see the day when we beat the Vraxians in open combat. Never thought I would see the day when we would face them at all." Lisa smiled tiredly. "Neither did I, Nathan. But here we are, and you know what? We did not just survive. We won." The final count came in over the next several hours. Of the 900 Vraxian vessels that had entered the Sol system, fewer than 300 escaped. The rest were destroyed, disabled, or captured. Human casualties had been severe. 147 ships lost. Several of their most modern vessels were gone. Over 12,000 personnel killed in space combat. Another 3,000 on the ground. But they had held. Earth remained free. Admiral Monroe stood in the command center of Unity Station. He accepted congratulations from his officers but felt no joy in the victory. Too many good people had died today. Too many families would receive notifications that their loved ones were not coming home. That was the price of independence. It had been paid in full. Sophie approached him quietly. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from General Krath. He is requesting terms for surrender." Jake considered this. "Put him through." The Vraxian general's image appeared on the main screen. He looked diminished. His proud bearing was gone. "Admiral Monroe, I must acknowledge defeat. My fleet is broken. I request terms for my surviving personnel and myself." Jake studied the alien commander for a long moment. "General Krath, you came to our world expecting an easy conquest. You plan to subjugate or exterminate my species. Give me one reason why I should show you any mercy at all." Krath met his gaze steadily. "I can give you no reason except this. If you show mercy now, you demonstrate to the galaxy that humanity is different from the Vraxian Dominion. You show that you can be strong without being cruel. That will be worth more to you in the long term than my death would be." Jake considered this. He nodded slowly. "Very well. Here are my terms. You will surrender your flagship and all surviving vessels to human custody. Your personnel will be disarmed and detained until we determine what to do with them. You personally will stand trial for war crimes committed against human colonies before this day. If found guilty, you will face whatever punishment a jury of your victims sees fit to impose. Do you accept these terms?" The general's expression did not change. "I accept. We will comply with your conditions." The transmission ended. Jake turned to his officers. "Begin recovery operations. Get medical teams to all damaged vessels, ours and theirs, and someone find out what the Council is saying about all this." The galaxy watched in amazement. The Vraxians, conquerors of 47 civilizations, had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. More remarkably, the humans had shown mercy when they could have shown vengeance. This combination of strength and restraint caught everyone's attention. The young species from Earth was not acting like anyone expected. They were writing their own rules. In the council chamber, debates raged. Some aliens wanted to embrace humanity immediately. Others wanted to be cautious. All of them agreed on one thing. The galaxy had changed today. Nothing would be the same again. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with activity. Representatives from 300 species talked in heated discussions. Some were impressed by humanity's unexpected victory. Others were concerned about what it meant for the delicate balance of power. A few, quietly, were terrified. Ambassador Krell addressed the assembly. His sensory appendages were quivering. High Arbiter honored representatives. What we witnessed today changes everything. The humans have shown military capabilities that far exceed what our intelligence suggested. More concerning is their willingness to use those capabilities with extreme prejudice. Counselor Mir's form shimmered with calm light. With respect, Ambassador Krell, the humans were defending their homeworld against an invasion force. Their response, while aggressive, was proportional to the threat they faced. Are we to condemn them for winning a war they did not start? A representative from the Korthan Empire spoke up. His species was known for military prowess. The issue is not that they won. The issue is how they won. They used kinetic weapons on a scale we have not seen in centuries. They weaponized their own propulsion systems. They showed tactical innovation that speaks to a fundamentally different approach to warfare. The High Arbiter raised several limbs for silence. The chamber quieted, though the tension remained. What troubles you all, I think, is not simply that the humans won. It is that they won without using the technologies and tactics we consider standard. They fought like no species we have encountered in living memory. Their success calls into question assumptions we have held for thousands of years. Krell made agreement sounds. Precisely, High Arbiter. If the humans can defeat the Vraxians using what we consider primitive weapons and unorthodox tactics, what does that say about our own military doctrines? What does it say about the conflicts we have chosen not to intervene in, because we assumed the outcomes were predetermined? A delegate from the Pelion Federation stood. Perhaps we have been complacent. Perhaps we have allowed our technology to make us predictable. The humans had no established doctrine to follow, so they created their own. They had no conventional weapons that could match Vraxian systems, so they used unconventional ones. In doing so, they exposed weaknesses in strategies we had all accepted as optimal. Mir pulsed with approval. You raise an excellent point. The humans were not constrained by our conventions because they did not know them. They approached the problem of defending their world with fresh eyes. They found solutions we had dismissed or never considered. The High Arbiter's form darkened thoughtfully. This brings us to the central question. What do we do about humanity now? They have proven themselves capable of resisting conquest. But they remain outside our formal structures of governance and diplomacy. They have not applied for council membership. Given their performance today, they may not feel they need it. Back on Earth, that very question was being debated. President Charles sat in the Situation Room beneath the White House. He was surrounded by military leaders and diplomatic advisors. General Sharon was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs. She was speaking. Mr. President, we have the attention of the entire galaxy right now. What we do next will define how humanity is perceived for generations to come. Charles nodded. I am aware, General. The question is whether we seek formal ties with the Galactic Council or maintain our independence. What is your recommendation? Sharon glanced at her colleagues. We should engage with the Council, but on our terms. We have proven we do not need their protection. What we need is information, trade access, and formal recognition of our sovereignty. We should approach them as equals, not supplicants. Ambassador Karen was humanity's chief diplomatic officer. She agreed. The Council operates on a principle of mutual respect among species. We have earned that respect today, but we need to be careful not to appear aggressive or expansionist. Our victory over the Vraxians was defensive in nature. We need to maintain that narrative. Charles considered their advice. Draft a message to the Galactic Council. Make it clear we are interested in formal diplomatic relations, but we will not compromise our sovereignty or submit to external governance. We are willing to work with them, but we will not work for them. As the meeting ended, Charles remained behind with Admiral Monroe. He had been patched in via secure communication. Jake, you and your people performed miracles today, but miracles come with a price. What are we looking at in terms of losses? Jake's expression was grim. We lost nearly 15,000 personnel, Mr. President. 147 ships destroyed beyond recovery. Dozens more will require months of repair work. We won, but it cost us dearly. Charles felt the weight of those numbers. Make sure every family receives full honors and benefits. And Jake, make sure your people know they saved our world. What they did today will be remembered as long as humanity exists. In the council chamber, The High Arbiter called for a formal vote. We must decide how to respond to humanity's message. They have requested recognition as an independent sovereign species with full trading rights and diplomatic status. All those in favor? The vote was not unanimous, but it was decisive. 237 species voted in favor. Only 43 opposed. 20 abstained. Humanity would be granted the recognition it sought. They would have formal representation in council proceedings. Krell approached Mir after the vote. Are we making a mistake? The humans have shown themselves to be formidable warriors. What happens when they turn that capability toward expansion rather than defense? Mir's form pulsed with gentle light. That is a question only time will answer, my friend. But consider this. They had the Vraxian fleet at their mercy. They chose to accept surrender rather than complete annihilation. They treated prisoners with dignity, even after suffering tremendous losses. These are not the actions of a species bent on conquest. Krell made soft sounds. Perhaps you're right. Or perhaps they are simply intelligent enough to play a long game. Either way, the galaxy has changed today. The humans have made certain of that. Lieutenant Ellen returned to Unity Station after 36 hours of continuous operations. She was exhausted. She was grieving the loss of squadron mates, but she was proud of what they had accomplished. Her commanding officer was Commander Frank. He met her in the hangar bay. Hell of a day, Pierce. Ellen managed a tired smile. Hell of a day, sir. Did we really just tell the entire galaxy to get off our lawn? Frank laughed. The sound held equal parts relief and exhaustion. That is one way to put it. The more diplomatic version is that we demonstrated humanity's commitment to sovereignty and self-determination. But yeah, we basically told them to get off our lawn. They stood together. They looked out at the scarred hulls of vessels that had survived the battle. Earth hung in the distance, peaceful and beautiful. It was unaware of how close it had come to conquest. Ellen felt a surge of emotion she could not quite name. Pride, certainly, relief, but also determination. They had won this battle. But the galaxy was vast and full of potential threats. This would not be the last time humanity would have to defend itself. Frank seemed to read her thoughts. The galaxy is watching us now. Some of them will be looking for opportunities to test us again. Others will be looking for ways to become our allies. We need to be ready for both, Ellen nodded. Then we had better start preparing. Because if there is one thing I learned today, it is that humanity is not going to hide in a corner of the galaxy. We are here to stay. We are going to make ourselves heard. News of the battle spread across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. Every species heard the story. The mighty Vraxian Dominion, conqueror of 47 civilizations, had been defeated. Not by superior technology, not by overwhelming numbers, but by creativity, determination, and the refusal to accept defeat. The humans had written themselves into galactic history in blood and fire. Trade delegations began planning their trips to Earth. Military advisors studied the battle records, trying to understand how such an upset had occurred. Diplomatic corps drafted messages of congratulation and alliance. Everyone wanted to know more about these remarkable humans. The galaxy was changing. Old assumptions were being questioned. New possibilities were being explored. And at the center of it all was a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. A planet whose inhabitants had just announced to the universe that they would not be ignored. They would not be conquered. They would stand as equals among the stars. 3 months after the battle that would be known as the Defense of Sol, humanity found itself in unfamiliar territory. The galaxy that had dismissed them as primitive upstarts now sought their attention. Trade delegations arrived weekly. Military alliances were proposed. Cultural exchanges were initiated. Through it all, humanity navigated the complex politics of galactic society with the same stubborn determination that had won them their independence. Admiral Jake Monroe stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed orbital station Genesis. He watched construction crews work on the latest additions to Earth's defensive network. The lessons learned during the Vraxian attack had not been forgotten. Humanity was expanding its military infrastructure. Now they watched galactic standards as well as their own innovations. Captain Nathan joined him. He carried 2 cups of coffee. Thought you could use this, Admiral. You have been up here for 6 hours. Jake accepted the coffee gratefully. Thank you, Nathan. Just making sure the new platforms are installed correctly. We cannot afford another surprise attack. Nathan looked out at the construction work. We have come a long way in 3 months. The Council has been cooperative. They are sharing technology and intelligence. Some of their species are even asking to train with our forces. Jake smiled slightly. Can you blame them? We showed them that their conventional wisdom was not so wise after all. Now everyone wants to learn how we think, how we fight. It is flattering and terrifying at the same time. In the Galactic Council chamber, Ambassador Krell and Counselor Mir met privately. The meeting was before the day's formal session. The alien diplomat seemed more relaxed than he had in months. I must admit, Counselor, that the humans have exceeded my expectations. They have integrated into galactic society with remarkable speed. They have shown themselves to be fair trading partners. Mir's form brightened. They have also been generous with their military innovations. The tactical doctrines they have shared have already influenced several species' defensive strategies. It is rare to see such openness from a newly recognized civilization. Krell made agreement sounds. Though I note they have been careful about what they share. The full specifications of their weapons systems remain classified. They are cooperative but not naive. The High Arbiter joined their conversation. Its ancient form moved with deliberate grace. That is precisely why they will succeed in this galaxy. They understand the balance between openness and security. They have learned in 3 months what takes most species decades to understand. On Earth, President Charles stood before the United Nations General Assembly. He addressed representatives from every nation on the planet. My fellow citizens of Earth, 3 months ago we faced the greatest threat in human history. An alien empire sought to conquer our world. They wanted to extinguish our freedom. They wanted to erase everything we had built over thousands of years of civilization. Today I stand before you to report that not only did we survive, we thrived. He paused. He let the weight of his words settle. Humanity has been granted full recognition by the Galactic Council. We now have access to technologies and knowledge that will transform our society. But with these opportunities come responsibilities. We must prove that our victory over the Vraxians was not luck. We must show we are worthy of our place among the stars. The assembly hall erupted in applause. Representatives from nations that had been rivals for centuries were united in their pride. Charles waited for the noise to subside. I am pleased to announce several initiatives. First, we will establish the Terran Space Academy. This joint military and civilian institution will train the next generation of explorers, diplomats, and defenders. Second, we will create the Human Colonial Development Corporation. It will oversee the expansion of human settlements beyond Earth in cooperation with our galactic partners. He looked around the chamber. He made eye contact with as many delegates as possible. Finally, I am proposing the Earth Defense Act. This will allocate resources to maintain and expand our military capabilities. We will never again be caught unprepared. We will never again be seen as easy prey. Humanity will stand among the stars as equals. We will do so with strength, wisdom, and unity. The applause was thunderous. Nations that had spent decades in competition now found common cause. The Vraxian attack had unified humanity in ways that no political movement ever could have. Lieutenant Ellen sat in a classroom at the newly founded Terran Space Academy. She was teaching a course on fighter tactics to the first class of cadets. These young people came from every corner of Earth. They represented the best and brightest their species had to offer. Today we are going to discuss the importance of unconventional thinking in combat. She began. During the defense of Sol, we faced an enemy that was superior to us in almost every way. They had better ships, better weapons, better shields. So how did we win? A cadet raised his hand. We used tactics they did not expect, ma'am. We weaponized our propulsion systems. We used kinetic weapons instead of energy weapons. Ellen nodded. Correct. But more fundamentally, we won because we refused to fight their way. We did not try to match their technology ship for ship. Instead, we identified their assumptions and exploited them. That is the lesson I want you to take away. In any conflict, the side that can adapt faster and think more creatively has an enormous advantage. She brought up a tactical display showing the battle. See here where we used the mass drivers? The Vraxians had shields optimized for energy weapons. That is what everyone in the galaxy uses. They were not prepared for kinetic strikes on that scale. That was not luck. That was careful analysis and creative problem-solving. The cadets took notes furiously. They hung on every word. Ellen felt satisfaction. She was helping to shape the next generation of humanity's defenders. She would make sure they were ready for whatever the galaxy threw at them. In a secure facility on Mars, engineers and scientists worked on humanity's next generation of vessels. Chief Engineer Peter oversaw the construction of the first ship designed from the ground up. It incorporated both human innovation and galactic technology. The result was something unique in the galaxy. A vessel that combined the best of both approaches. Dr. Helen was head of the propulsion team. She walked Peter through their latest breakthrough. We have successfully integrated alien shield technology with our own armor systems. The result is defensive capability that exceeds either system individually. The shields handle energy weapons while the armor deals with kinetic strikes. Peter studied the specifications with approval. And the weapon systems? Helen grinned. We have kept our railguns and mass drivers, but we have added plasma cannons acquired through tech exchange. Plus, we have refined our spatial warp missiles. The new version is even more effective and considerably safer to deploy. Peter felt pride. When will she be ready for trials? Helen checked her schedule. 6 months, assuming no major setbacks. We are calling her the Horizon class. She will be the first of a new generation of human vessels, built not just to defend Earth but to explore the galaxy. 1 year after the defense of Seoul, Earth celebrated Liberation Day. Festivities spread across the planet. In major cities, parades honored the fallen and celebrated the living. Veterans of the battle gathered to share stories. They remembered friends who had not made it home. In orbit, the new space stations stood as silent sentinels. They ensured that humanity would never again be caught unprepared. Admiral Jake Monroe stood at the memorial on Unity Station. It was now repaired and upgraded after its battle damage. The wall behind him bore the names of every human who had died defending Earth. The names were carved in stone that would outlast any electronic record. He placed his hand on the cold surface. He whispered a promise. We will never forget. We will honor your sacrifice by building the future you fought to protect. Lieutenant Ellen joined him. She laid a wreath at the base of the memorial. Her sister's name was there. Among the many who had fallen in earlier battles with the Vraxians, they would be proud of what we have accomplished, she said softly. Jake nodded. They would. And they would want us to keep moving forward, to keep exploring, to keep making humanity's mark on the galaxy. President Charles made his address. He stood before a crowd of millions in New York City. Behind him, holographic images showed Earth as seen from space, beautiful and peaceful and unbroken. 1 year ago today, humanity faced its darkest hour. An alien empire sought to conquer our world. We stood alone. A galactic council observed but did nothing to help. They thought we would fall. They thought we would beg for mercy. They were wrong. The crowd roared its approval. Charles raised his hands for quiet. Today we stand not as a conquered people, but as free citizens of Earth and the wider galaxy. We have earned our place among the stars through courage, sacrifice, and determination. We have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be intimidated. We will not surrender. We will not go quietly into the night. He paused. His expression became more serious. But our victory brings responsibility. We are now part of a galactic community that stretches across thousands of light years. We must be good neighbors, wise traders, and faithful allies. We must prove that the creativity and determination we showed in battle can also build peace and prosperity. As the celebrations continued on Earth and throughout human space,